my day, baseball was serious business. We didn't have much to watch on TV, maybe 3 channels, not much on the radio. So baseball was America's sport. Football, basketball, nothing else was even on the charts. So everybody followed it in the paper, and games were on weekends only. So at that time there were only 16 teams in the American and National Leagues, 8 in the American, 8 in the National. And of course the Yankees were the best, and the Kansas City Athletics were the worst. I mean, they were terrible. They couldn't win. And they had an owner named Charles Finley. And Charles Finley did everything he could to get people out to the ballpark. And he would pull all kinds of comedial stunts to get people out to the game. And they often were very campy and sometimes very funny. But one in particular I remember. The A's were playing, they were in last place, of course, and they were playing a team that was in contention for the pennant. So it was right at the end of the season, and this team, I believe it was the Chicago White Sox, were vying for the pennant. Every win was important. They could not afford to lose to the A's. They were playing in Kansas City, and Charles Finley had added a new player to his roster, and none of the sports announcers seemed to know who he was, just a name. And as the game progressed, it got to the 9th inning, and the game was actually tied in the 9th inning. And the Kansas City A's loaded the bases and were threatening to win the game in the bottom of the 9th. And loaded the bases, and out came Charles Finley's new player. It was a midget. The guy was about 3 feet tall, and he stepped up to the plate. And baseball being a serious game, and this being a big game, of course he was ordered not to swing regardless. And of course he drew a base on balls, and the Chicago White Sox won the game, causing the Kansas City won the game, causing the White Sox to lose the pennant. Therefore, the midget rule, or the small man rule, came into effect, which meant you had to be a certain height in order to play Major League Baseball. Another story I remember, Mantle and Maris vying for the home run title. Babe Ruth's record had stood for, 30, 40 years? No one had come close. No one took steroids, so this was before the age of steroids. In fact, no one has even come close to Ruth's record since steroids were banned, as a matter of fact. But this particular year, the Yankees had traded for a player from Charles Finley's Kansas City Athletics, of all teams, for an unknown player named Roger Maris. And Maris had been a rookie the year before, had done pretty well, and showed some potential for hitting short-length home runs. Well, Yankee Stadium, of course, it was known to have the longest fences in baseball. It was harder to hit a home run there than anywhere else. But the right field fences were brought in because the Yankees needed to add more seats. So the right field fence was brought into dangerously closer to the plate. And whereas center field and left field were almost impossible to get over. Well, the Yankees brought in Roger Maris because he was a left-handed hitter, and they felt he could poke him over that right field fence. So in fact he did. He had the most remarkable home run season in the history of the game. He started out just as consistently hitting home runs from the start of the season. But his arch rival and the great idol of baseball, Mickey Mantle, was right on his heels. Mantle was also having a stellar year. So it was a home run race extraordinaire. Halfway through the season, they were in their upper 30s. 3/4 of the way to the magic 60, they were in their upper 40s. So they didn't have but about 12 more home runs to go to beat Babe Ruth's season record in 154 games. And so, to my great chagrin, Mickey Mantle went down with an injury, which he was prone to do. And that left Roger Maris all alone to chase Ruth's record. which he did overtake in 162 games. He did not overtake it in 154. No one has, no one ever will. So Roger Maris was the great wonder of the world that year. That same year, my father went to New York, and he was a traveling businessman, and he went many places, but he was either in New York or Missouri, where Maris was from. I can't remember which. And at a very fancy restaurant, and they announced that Roger Maris, they were honored to have Roger Maris that night in attendance in their restaurant. My father said, "I have got to get that man's autograph for my son. He loves the Yankees. He loves Maris and Mantle. And if I could just bring him that autograph, he'd love me forever." My birthday was in 2 days, on May 11th. And so he took the coaster underneath his dinner cup and went over to Maris's table and said, "Sir, I hate to bother you, but if you wouldn't mind, my son would just love to have your autograph." Well, this was the year he hit 61 home runs. This was 1961. So Roger Maris graciously, and he was a fine man, a humble man, he took the coaster and he wrote, "To Waddy West III, on his birthday, May 11th, 1961, happy birthday and best wishes, Roger Maris." Well, my friends at home could hardly believe that I had an autograph personally addressed to me by the man who broke Babe Ruth's record. Unfortunately, as the years went by, all of my autographs were thrown out by my mother when she cleaned house, and including the famous coaster with Roger Maris. That would have been my most treasured possession today, because it came from my father and it came from Roger Maris. However, as time goes on, I'm humbled to realize that even my own son or my son's sons would someday consider it of no account anyway, and they would probably have thrown it out. So it meant something to me and me alone, baseball being a big part of my life.
Mickey Mantle struck out and grounded to first. High, ball one. Yanks 2, Dodgers 2, 6th inning. High outside, ball 2. Joe Black pressing a little bit out there. Inside, ball 3. This is Black's 3rd start in the series, and Reynolds' 4th appearance. 2 starts and 2 relief jobs. In there for a strike, 3-1. So the wear and tear may tell. Black 28, Reynolds 34. The difference in ages may be a factor, it may not. There's a fly ball out to right field. That ball is going, it is gone. And the Yankees are back out in front 3-2 in the battle of the home runs. And there's Chuck Dressen over to water cooler.
So in a flash to the past, a couple of memories come to mind. Baseball was an extremely serious sport in my day. We played outside all the time, and we only had 3 TV channels and not much on the radio. And coming out of the Great Depression, of course, baseball was everything to America. Football and basketball were non-entities practically. And everybody watched baseball.
Okay, stop. I gotta make sure I'm getting this on.